heard about Quest services when I found myself at a really low point in my life. I struggled with drug and alcohol abuse for about 10 years up to that point, and I tried, all the self-will I could muster to stop, and eventually it just came to a point where I just gave into it. And it was so frustrating because I found so many times in my life where I had success and I had happiness, and drugs and alcohol had taken that away from me. And it went from habit to necessity at that point. And it was then I reached out to my parents, and luckily my mom had been attending support group meetings with John at Quest Recovery Services, and that's where she made the introduction to John and I, and that's where my journey of recovery really started.
And John, can you share more your relationship with Bill?
Yeah, sure. So we started at Quest, when it was Quest, now CommQuest, about maybe 4.5 years ago, family support group, and we meet every Tuesday at 5:30 to 7:30. And the first time I actually held a meeting, Bill's mother was the only one to show up at our first meeting ever, so she was sort of my first participant. And I would say then we got more, and as time said, she was coming because I had never met Bill at the time, that her one son was definitely a drug addict or alcoholic, she didn't know, and she was obsessed. Her whole life stopped, and she was obsessed. And we teach sort of Al-Anon principles in our group, and she slowly and surely got boundaries. She was also interested in doing an intervention, which I do for the agency also. And so after maybe, several months of her coming, we sort of set up an intervention, and then before we actually did it, I got a call from her and said, could I come over because my son just told me he needs help. And so she and Bill met me at Wilson Hall, so we did a sort of a quick little intervention, and Bill admitted, he needed help, and so I think maybe the next day or so, Bill was in residential treatment at Wilson Hall. So that's how we sort of came together in that matter.
It's a really awesome story because the day that I felt like it was either suicide or I didn't really have any other choices was the day I went to talk to my mom and open up to her about what was going on in my life, and she's convinced that's like the day that she accepted where I was, is the day that I feel like I surrendered, started like the surrender process. And I'm just so grateful for CommQuest and John to be there at that point in time. I stopped believing in coincidences a long time ago, so it's really been awesome. It has been.
Did you use any other services while you were at Wilson Hall or after that CommQuest provided?
Yeah, I did. Utilizing the Aftercare was a huge part of that, and the IOP after treatment was great because I'd gone into the transitional housing at Wilson Hall, which really gave me a stable residence that I could start going out into the world, start working, attending meetings on my own, but also coming back to a safe place that was surrounded with recovery and good principles that kept me accountable, because that's what I need in my life, is accountability and structure.
Who were the most influential people that were a part of your support system?
Sure. John definitely started the process, and he's been throughout, and I think him being able to help the communication between my parents and I, that's been something that's always struggled, and most of it was on my part because of my selfishness and dishonesty, but helping us work on our communication has been great for our relationship, so that's been huge. My support system, I have a sponsor today. I also have a sober support group. The individuals out at Wilson Hall, like Mr. Scott, Mr. Montgomery, Mrs. Powers, Mrs. Mack, they were instrumental in planting the seed and helping me start acquiring the tools to live a clean and sober life. I'm really grateful for that today.
John, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, I think one of the other things we do residential facilities, we offer them family sessions if they want, because drugs and alcohol tear apart families. And so at a given time, if the client wants, we bring loved ones in there into Wilson Hall or Quest Deliverance House or Bright House or Smith House, and we have sessions with them, individual sessions, trying to mend a lot of feelings and disappointments and frustrations and resentments. And I remember a few times, I believe that Bill's parents came in for some family sessions, and they were good, but they were very, very honest. And I mean, it took a little time to sort of work through some stuff, because and especially with a lot of families too, and not necessarily just Bill's family, but the addiction goes from generation to generation. So there's a lot of hurt feelings from generation, a lot of secrets, a lot of things that you could come out in a very mature and in a mature and strong fashion in a setting like that, which helps a lot of clients and their family members.
Can you expand on your experience at Wilson Hall? How long did you stay there, and what was a normal day's routine? Also, what did you like most and least about your time at Wilson Hall?
Okay, great question. I stayed at Wilson Hall for 100 days in the residential treatment, and then I moved to the transitional housing, which I stayed at for 8 months after the 3 months in residential treatment. And to be honest, when I had the conversation with John, I thought I was going to do a 28-day program like the Sandra Bullock movie, and then things would be fixed. And when he told me it was 90 to 120 days, in the back of my mind, I thought there's no way I will stay for that. And it was about, I think, day 25, 26, where I started to feel a little better, and I saw people that had been in the hole a little longer than me that were looking better and feeling better and sharing their experience, strength, and hope. And I thought, you know what, maybe I'll stick it out for a little longer. And it was just kind of talking to others and them supporting me through that process. I said, well, maybe I'll stay for 60. And then it was, maybe I should just stay for the whole thing, because I haven't seen anything through in a long time. And I would definitely didn't want to do the transitional housing, that's for sure. The idea of staying with a bunch of guys for an indefinite amount of time and be controlled and supervised was not my idea, but it's definitely what I needed, because the daily structure that was provided at Wilson Hall was so necessary for my life and to be a productive member of society now. I lack so much structure in my days in active use and addiction, where I would go days without eating, and I mean, there's days where I wouldn't sleep too, and there was days I would sleep whole days away, and that was normal. And the fact that they made me wake up at a decent hour and make my bed, that was frustrating. I felt like a little kid again, but that's probably indicative of my mental and emotional maturity at that time too, and I still feel young at that time. I mean, I started using when I was 13, so I really do feel like they were dealing with a teenager, and I look back on it, and even today I still feel like I'm probably like 16 now emotionally, so I'm getting better, but it's still a process. And what's the last part of your question? Sorry.
What did you like most or least?
What I like most, the support of the therapeutic community is, that would be both of it. That would be what I liked most, and what I like least about it is it's so frustrating to be surrounded with 20 plus other alcoholics and addicts in recovery that are all fighting their own battle. And it's frustrating because, like I said, I was 13. I think there were some in there that were 8, and there were some that were maybe 16, but we're all trying to get better, and that's so frustrating because I could see, the flaws on all the other men, but the thing is those were the things that I disliked about myself the most, and that was probably the most rewarding thing, is understanding that, we're all on a journey here, and although some of us may be ahead or some of us are just starting, we can learn from one another. So it's really awesome about the hall. It's a really amazing experience.
John, how do you share in the daily routine at Wilson Hall?
Well, presently I'm the clinical director of Wilson Hall, so a large part of my day is to sort of strategize with leadership to see how we can make the experience better in the area of client care and to take care of things. I do that. I do meet with families. I used to sit in a lot of groups. I don't have time to do that anymore. But so I'm basically a person there, and I'm a person when leadership needs a sort of maybe an insight about a ethical decision that we have to make, or to make sure, just to make sure that we're doing everything legal and safe and for the best of our clients.
Bill, how has recovery changed the person and the path your life is on?
It's the best thing that's happened to me. There's no doubt about that. I mean, when I came to Wilson Hall, it was the 4th of July, 2013. I was 26 years old. I was about 30 pounds underweight, unemployed, on my way to being homeless, suicidal, and I burnt almost all the bridges in my life. And the ones that were still there were, frayed and ready to crumble. Since coming into recovery and just over 3 years clean and sober now, I have opportunities today. I have a life. And a lot of people say this in recovery, is that, if you write down what you want to get out of recovery, you'll sell yourself short, and I would have definitely done that. I have a career today that I feel like my higher power has given me the opportunity to do that I wouldn't have been able to do in 10 years, and I've been able to get there in 3 years. The relationships I have today they're honest, they're loving, and there's understanding there, and that was a kind of a foreign concept to me. My idea of love when I came into recovery was very, very distorted. It's nice that I've gotten some of the material things back, because the house and the car and the clothes and the job, and those things are nice, but the inner peace that I have today in recovery is something that's you can't put a number on it or a figure. It's being able to love myself, and that's. Until I came to recovery, I could never say, even before I used, I didn't love myself. So that's really a blessing there. And back to the relationships, I continue to see where there's something working in my life that's greater than me, and if I stay out of the way, it has a way of just continually just showing me more and more of what's possible, and what a blessing that is.
So would you say you continue to work a recovery program each day, and has it gotten any easier?
Yeah, I continue to work a program every day. It's the idea of staying clean and sober for the rest of my life was overwhelming, and I can't tell you that I'm going to stay clean and sober the rest of my life. I can tell you I have a really good chance for today to stay sober today, because I've been taught and I've been given a set of tools and disciplines to practice on a daily basis, and that's really all I have. I have confidence that if I continue to do what I've been taught and what people around me support me to do, I have a good chance of living that lifetime of recovery. But does it get easier? Certainly. The first 30 to 90 days, a lot of the physical symptoms are difficult to deal with, and the mental part of it too. I felt like I was in a fog for close to 4 or 5 months, just because I've been dumping toxins and poisons into my body for 10 years, and it's really hard to expect it to function well. So it took some time to get away from that physical, but when I started working on the inside and the mental part of it, that's when I felt like I said earlier, I got catapulted into really being able to be effective, I feel like, in my life. It does get easier. It really does, because as I've gone, my support groups continue to grow and grow. It was just my sponsor and a couple guys in the hall, and now I have a phone full of people that I can call or text at any time of the day, and these people will do anything for me, and that was foreign, but now that's just what I've come to grow to know, and what a beautiful thing that is.
Bill and John, what would you say to someone who is thinking about taking the first step towards recovery?
Well, John, you taught me, so what would you say?
I would say that you could do it, and to have the courage to surrender all the pain, to the process. And if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, as we say in the rooms, CommQuest is the place to come, because we try every day to give hope and understanding and a sense of love to each one of our clients. And just on a personal note, and every time I see Bill and just say I had a little part to play in it, it's really heartfelt gratitude.
I would say the first thing I would say to them is there is hope. There's no doubt about that. And no matter how dark or how low you feel like you've sunk in, there is a way out. And CommQuest was the place that got me started on that path. Drug addiction and alcoholism led me into isolation. And the only thing I believe that's really going to take someone out of that darkness is starting to surround themselves with positive, loving people. And I found those people at CommQuest. That's the difference for me on a daily basis, is the people in my life. Because unfortunately I have a disease that it wants to kill me, because I was really comfortable with killing myself on a daily basis. And I was doing it faster and faster and faster. And that's really what this disease, I believe, wants me to do. It doesn't want to kill me. It wants me to live in misery. That's why I want to kill myself. And that's where I found myself. So if you're anywhere on that spectrum, I'll tell you this, is it does get worse, because every time I've tried to do it on my own, it's gotten way, way worse. But it wasn't until I asked for help and started getting people in my life that it started getting better. So I asked for that help, and try to give it an honest, open-minded and willing attempt on a daily basis, and you'll have a chance.